Hello and welcome to this segment of the Dead Sea Scrolls, Words of Moses 1Q22. Now this scroll was found in the first cave at Qumran. However, when doing research into the scrolls, I came across a video of a gentleman who wrote a book about a scroll that was found outside of the Qumran caves. And the title of his book is called The Moses Scroll, I believe. And when I was listening to the story of the scroll that he was talking about, it sounded very similar to the Words of Moses scroll. So I think they might be one and the same. He stated that the scroll that they found was found by locals and kept by enthusiasts for quite some time. And it was written on I believe it was animal hide, if I'm not mistaken. But he said that it was, written in third person at the beginning, then written in first person through Moses, and then written in third person at the end. So when we look at this scroll, it does the exact same thing. And so I have a hunch that they're the same. So if you have done research on that, or maybe you even own the book, let me know what you have found out about it. It apparently both scrolls, they both talk about the same information that we find in the Deuteronomy, and it sounds very similar because the gentleman who wrote the book, the Moses Scroll, also talks about the fact that it's part of Deuteronomy, and then it skips a whole big section and then finishes up with some other chapters. And again, it might be the very same scroll. So today we are going to go over this one only because it piques my interest. This is a short fragment, and it won't take a lot of time to go through, but anything that piques my interest when looking at the scrolls, I might actually present. Some of them are so broken up, or just don't have a lot of information in them, that I might not present them. But this one has a few details in it that I thought would be important to highlight. So we're going to take a look at this today through the Dead Sea Scrolls Study Edition, Florentino Garcia Martinez, as well as my favorite, the Dead Sea Scrolls, a New Translation by Wise, Abegg, and Cook. I tend to read a lot of their introductions, and I will be doing that today. So let's get started. If you're following along, it's on page 105. The authors of the Dead Sea Scrolls found the Bible a limitless source of wisdom and instruction, but on occasion they found it necessary to rewrite portions of it to enhance the message they found in it or wanted to find in it. Sometimes biblical stories were rewritten, such as the tales of the patriarchs, probably to increase their entertainment value. I disagree with that statement, but let me move right along. Other portions, such as the Temple Scroll, represent rewritten and expanded legal material with controversial or new laws added, highlighted, or explained. So I agree that things are rewritten. We see that a lot in the Dead Sea Scrolls. When you write a paper, you start with your rough draft, right? And then you go to your first, second, third draft until you get to your final draft. Same thing here. The text here, translated the Words of Moses, follows a similar plan. Although fragmentary and reconstructed with remarkable acumen by J.T. Millick, the scroll apparently was a rewriting of parts of Moses' last farewell as given in the book of Deuteronomy. Since most of the composition has perished, we can only guess what purpose lay behind its writing. The parts that remain emphasize the dangers of apostasy and the judgment that inevitably follows, a theme quite in keeping with the original book. All right, let me go to the first column, again, page 105 to 106. The first column is actually based off of Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 3. And Yahweh spoke to Moses in the year 40 of the departure of the children of Israel from the land of Egypt, in the 11th month, the first day of the month, saying, Muster all the congregation, climb Mount Nebo, and stay there, you and Eleazar, Aaron's son. Interpret for the heads of the families, for the Levites, and for all the priests, and decree to the sons of Israel the words of the law which I commanded you on Mount Sinai to decree to them. So I'm going to stop here. So we see the Levites and for all the priests. So there are the two distinct priests, the Zadok priests as well as the Levites and Levite priests. So we see there is a differentiation between the two groups throughout the scriptures and the Dead Sea Scrolls. Obviously in our canon we don't see the Zadok priest line. I think it's perhaps on purpose. Anyway, moving right along, let's go ahead and finish this out. Proclaim in their ears everything accurately, for I will require it of them. So he's telling Eleazar and Moses, he's saying, get everybody together. This is information that you need to hold on to, right? We're going to proclaim it in their ears. What you gather from me, you need to tell them. So it said, take to the heavens and the earth as witnesses against them, for they will not love what I have commanded them, they and their sons, all the days they live upon the earth. However, I will announce that they will desert me and choose the sins of the peoples, their abominations and their disreputable acts, and will serve idols who will become a trap and snare. It's very sad. It's just like being a parent. If you could see your children's future and you know that they're going to go astray, you're going to plead with them. Hey, you guys need to listen to this information. This instruction is very important. They will violate all the holy assemblies, the Sabbath of the covenant, the festivals which I command you today to keep. So again, he knows, our Father obviously knows that his children are going to go astray. So here he is. He's telling them to gather everybody together. Let's tell them one more time the best that we can. Get this information. Let them know that there's a chance that they're going to fall away, right? And obviously, there's a big chance. Father already knows the answer to that. This is why I will strike them with a great blow in the midst of the land for the conquest of which they are going to cross the Jordan there. And when all the curses happen to them and overtake them until they die and until they are destroyed, then they will know that the truth has been carried out on them. And Moses called Eleazar, son of Aaron, and Joshua, son of Nun, and said to them, speak all the words of the law without leaving any out. Or in the New Translation it says, repeat all the words of the law up to the very end. So here we have Eleazar, who's a Zadokite, and he's going to be leading the Israelites with Joshua. This is important information. These gentlemen are going to be gathering the laws, memorizing them, repeating them to the children and to the children's children for generations, right? Second column, page 107. And this is a partial sentence here. Israel, and listen, the day you are becoming the nation of Elohim, your Elohim, keep my rules, my stipulations, my commandments, which today I command you to carry out. And when you cross the Jordan, I shall give you large and good cities, houses full of every wealth, vineyards and olive groves which you did not plant, wells bored which you did not dig, and you will eat and become replete. I have that highlighted. Probably sounds familiar if you read the scriptures. This is the same wording as in Joshua 24:13, and this is the same sentiment, same statement that is mentioned also in 1 Samuel 8:11 through 18, as well as Zephaniah 1:9 through 13, where it talks about the blessings of the Father. He's going to give us cities that we didn't build. But again, our Father comes with the if-then statements. If you follow my commandments, my rules, my stipulations, then you will have this blessing, right? So again, it's a father's heart wanting his children to follow, and so you give them the ultimate goal and say, if you do this, look what you're going to get. And that's what he's doing here. Beware of raising your heart and forgetting what I command you today, for it is your life and your old age. So don't forget what I'm telling you right here, right now, because it'll help you have life. And Moses spoke and said to the sons of Israel, 40 years have passed from the day of your departure from the land of Egypt, and today Elohim, our Elohim, has caused these words to issue from his mouth and all his precepts. How shall I alone carry your burden, your weight, your quarrels? When I have finished to blank the covenant and to decree the path on which you must walk, choose for yourselves wise men who will have the task to explain to you and to your sons all the words of the law. Now I have highlighted blue for wise men. So we know that we have Eleazar and we have Joshua, but the job needs to be given to other people, because if you lose your head like they're losing Moses, right, you have to pass it on to other wise men. And so you have to keep wise men among you who have the law, who know the law, who can repeat the law and teach the law. So he's saying, keep wise men around you so that they can help you do these tasks. All right? Be very careful for your lives to observe them, lest the wrath of your Elohim be kindled and break out against you. And he closes the skies above, which make the rain fall upon you, and the water from underneath the earth, which gives you the harvest. So if you're not going to listen, you're going to have the wrath, which is the no rain, the famine, right? And Moses continued speaking to the sons of Israel. These are the commandments which Elohim commands you to observe. And this sounds very similar here at Deuteronomy 5:29 through 33. Oh, that they had such a heart as this always, to fear me and to keep all my commandments, that it might go well with them and with their descendants forever. Go and say to them, return to your tents. But you stand here by me, and I will tell you the whole commandment and the statutes and the rules that you shall teach them, that they may do them in the land that I am giving them to possess. You shall be careful, therefore, to do as Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you. You shall not turn aside to the right hand or to the left. You shall walk in all the ways of Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you, that you may live, and that it may go well with you, and that you may live long in the land that you shall possess. So we have the wise men, remember, that need to be held accountable to hold others accountable, right? And those, I believe, are the Zadokites, the people of the Yahad, as we hear in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of the roles of the Zadokite priests. So in a future discussion, we're going to be addressing the community rule. And here are some things that the community rule states about the Zadokite priests. The priests are to rehearse Elohim's gracious acts made manifest by his mighty deeds, heralding his loving mercies on Israel's behalf. The sons of Zadok, priests and preservers of the covenant. These men shall guide all decisions on matters of the law, money, and judgment. And indeed, Elohim has chosen them for an eternal covenant. They are also interpreters of the law. All right, we also have in a different section of the community rule, this is the rule for the men of the community who freely volunteer to convert from all evil and to keep themselves steadfast in all he commanded in compliance with his will. They should keep apart from the congregation of the men of injustice in order to constitute a community in law and possessions, and acquiesce to the authority of the sons of Zadok, the priests who safeguard the covenant, and to the authority of the multitude of men of the community, those who persevere steadfastly in the covenant. By their authority, decision by lot shall be made in every affair involving the law, property, and judgment, to achieve together truth and humility, justice and uprightness, compassionate love, and seemly behavior in all their paths. All right, there's another scroll called the Charter for Israel in the Last Days. And here is what it talks about for the Zadokite priest. It says, "This is the rule for the congregation of Israel in the last days when they are mobilized to join the Yahad. They must live by the law of the sons of Zadok, the priests, and the men of their covenant, they who cease to walk in the ways of the people. These same are the men of his party who kept his covenant during evil times and so atoned for the land. These," speaking of the congregation, tribal officials, all judges, magistrates, captains, and Levites, "are the men of reputation who hold commissions in the party of the Yahad in Israel and sits before the sons of Zadok, the priests." And this is mentioned in the Damascus document. It says, "Elohim promised them by Ezekiel the prophet, saying, the priests and Levites and the sons of Zadok, who have kept the courses of my sanctuary when the children of Israel strayed from me, they shall bring me fat and blood." This is also in Ezekiel 44:15. "The priests, they are the repentant of Israel, who go out of the land of Judah, and the Levites are those accompanying them. And the sons of Zadok, they are the chosen of Israel, the ones called by name, who are to appear in the last days." Now, if you were following along in my Damascus document presentation, I believe that the Zadokites who appear in the last days are those following the courses. That would be the calendar, the laws, right? The statutes. We're trying to separate ourselves from the world and come back to Him. And that's where I believe that the Zadokites are representative of those coming back in the last days, and why I believe we're in the last days. All right, let's move on to the last column, column 3. "After 7 years you shall keep the Sabbath of the land, and the yield of the Sabbath of the land may be used by you for food. By you and your animals and the beasts of the field it may be used for food. What remains will be for the poor from among your brothers who are in the land. No one will sow his field nor prune his vine. No one will harvest what grows of its own accord, nor gather anything. Keep all these words of the covenant to observe them, and when blank, in order to do blank, and in this year you shall grant a release." So this is specifically talking about the Sabbath year release of your fields, of your crops, of your harvest. Every 7 years, according to Scripture, we are to let the land rest. And this is the description of the same thing that we see in Deuteronomy 15 and Leviticus. So we're going to look at that in just a few moments. But every 7 years you let your land rest. Then it says, let's see here, "Every creditor who has lent something to someone, or who possesses something from his brother, will grant release to his fellow, for a release for Elohim. Your Elohim has been proclaimed. One may demand restitution from the foreigner, but from one's brother no one shall demand restitution. For in that year Elohim will bless you, forgiving you your sins. Blank in the year blank of the month blank on this day. For your fathers wandered in the wilderness until the 10th day of the month, the blank of the 10th day of the month. You shall refrain from all work. On the 10th day of the month atonement shall be made, blank of the month, and they shall take blank. It's talking about the Day of Atonement, right? So a couple of things. So every Sabbath year is a release of, your creditors, right? All right. Now let's see if I can do this. Deuteronomy. I probably have it here. Let's see. Let's read chapter 15. I'm going to read, let me see if I'm going to read. Yeah, I'll read it all. All right. At the end of every 7 years you shall grant release, and this is the manner of the release. Every creditor shall release what he has lent to his neighbor. He shall not exact of it of his neighbor, his brother, because Yahweh's release has been proclaimed. So doesn't this sound, it's a reworking, right? A rewriting. It's very similar. The same concept is being spoken of. It's just rewritten. Of a foreigner you may exact it, but whatever is yours is with your brother, your hand shall release. But there will be no poor among you, for Yahuwah will bless you in the land that Yahuwah your Elohim is giving you for an inheritance to possess. If only you will strictly obey, here's the if, right? If only you will strictly obey the voice of your Elohim, be careful to do all this commandment that I have commanded you today. For Yahuwah your Elohim will bless you as he has promised you, and you shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow. And you shall rule over many nations, but they shall not rule over you. We know that's been out the door for quite some time, right? All right, verse 7. If among you one of your brothers should become poor in any of your towns within your land that Yahuwah your Elohim has given you, you shall not harden your heart or shut your hand against the poor brother, but you shall open your hand to him and lend him sufficient for his need, whatever it may be. Take care lest there be an unworthy thought in your heart, and you say, the 7th year, the year of release is near, and your eye look grudgingly on your poor brother, and you give him nothing, and he cry to Yahuwah against you, and you be guilty of sin. You shall give to him freely, and your heart shall not be grudging when you give to him, because for this is Yahuwah your Elohim will bless you in all your work and all that you undertake. For there will never cease to be poor in the land. Right? So if we were doing this correctly, we should not have poor in our lands, right? Therefore I command you, you shall open wide your hand to your brother, to the needy, to the poor in your land. If your brother, a Hebrew, a man or a woman is sold to you, and he shall serve you 6 years, and in the 7th year you shall let him go free from you. And when you let him go free from you, you shall not let him go empty-handed. You shall furnish him liberally out of your flock, out of your threshing floor, out of your winepress. As Yahuwah your Elohim has blessed you, you shall give to him. You shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and that Yahuwah your Elohim redeemed you. Therefore I command you this day. But if he says to you, I will not go out from you, because he loves you and your household, since he is well off with you, then you shall take an awl and put it through his ear into the door, and he shall be your slave forever. So it's just saying, if somebody is your slave but they decide that they're better off staying with you, set them free, but let them stay. And to your female slave you shall do the same. It shall not seem hard to you when you let him go free from you. For at half the cost of a hired worker he has served you 6 years. So Yahuwah your Elohim will bless you in all that you do. All the firstborn males that are born of your herd and flock you shall dedicate to Yahuwah your Elohim. And you shall do no work with the firstborn of your herd, nor shear the firstborn of your flock. You shall eat it, and you and your household, before Yahuwah your Elohim, year by year, at the place that Yahuwah will choose. But if it has any blemish, if it is lame or blind, or has any serious blemish, whatever, you shall not sacrifice it to Yahuwah your Elohim. You shall eat it within your towns. The unclean and the clean alike may eat it, as though it were a gazelle or a deer. No, it's not telling you you can go eat unclean. Only you shall not eat its blood. You shall pour it out on the ground like water. Okay. And then we have Leviticus 25. This is talking about a Sabbath year. It same thing that Deuteronomy talks about. But then it goes on to talk about the year of Jubilee. So the text that we're reading is also talking about the year of Jubilee. So every 7 years is a land rest, and every Jubilee year, which is the 50th year, is also a Sabbath rest. So I'm going to read that here. You shall count 7 weeks of years, 7 times 7, so that the time of 7 weeks of years shall give you 49 years. Then you shall sound the loud trumpet on the 10th day of the 7th month. On that day of atonement you shall sound the trumpet throughout your land, and you shall consecrate the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout the land and all its inhabitants, and it shall be a jubilee for you. For each of you shall return to his property, and each of you shall return to his clan. That 50th year shall be a jubilee for you. In it you shall neither sow nor reap what grows for itself, nor gather the grapes from the undressed vines, for it is a jubilee, and it shall be holy to you. You may eat the produce of the field. And then it goes on to talk more about the jubilee year, about buying and selling and what statutes you keep during that time. And it does talk again about what you're doing with your field. So it says down here at verse 18, therefore you shall do my statutes and keep my rules and perform them, and then you will dwell in the land securely. The land will yield its fruit, and you will eat your fill and dwell in it securely. And if you say, what shall we eat in the 7th year, if we may not sow or gather our crop? Oh, I had the same question, folks. I had the same question. It says, I will command my blessing on you in the 6th year, so that it will produce a crop sufficient for 3 years. When you sow in the 8th year, you will be eating some of the old crop. You shall eat the old until the 9th year, when its crop arrives. All right, so here is the deal, folks. Every 7th year, we let our land rest. But there is also every 50th year, you let the land rest. I had the same question. What happens? So during a Sabbath year, you do not plant, nor do you reap your harvest. You can go out there like you can do on the Sabbath. You can go out, pick your strawberry and eat it, right? While you're out there, you just eat it. You're not gathering. Well, according to Scripture, you do not harvest to bring into your house. You do not send out people to gather your crops. You do not do that. And so I do have that question. What do we do, right? And obviously these are people who lived off their land. We can go to the grocery store, so it doesn't really affect us unless you are self-sufficient, which I applaud you if you are. But what do you do? Well, it says here, I command a blessing in your 6th year, so that there is a produce of a crop sufficient for 3 years. And I was, questioning, well, what do you mean for 3 years? And we're going to get into that in a moment. Because every 50th year, the 49th year is a Sabbath, because it's at the end of a 7-year cycle. And then your 50th year is also a Sabbath. So that means there are going to be years where there are 2 Sabbath years in a row where you do not plant nor reap from your fields. Father says here, on those times, I'm going to give you enough crop sufficient for 3 years. Well, because you can't plant for the 7th year and the 8th year, which is this might be confusing. I'm going to show you in a moment. But there are going to be 2 years in a row where you can't plant or reap. Okay? And he's saying, if you obey me, I will give you enough sufficient for all those years. Because the 51st year, you get to plant, but you still have to wait until harvest time. So that's 3 years in a row that you're waiting for harvest you do not have. Obviously, our ancestors knew how to preserve food also. So that is when you preserve is in the 6th year. right? The 6th year you need to preserve. All right, I'm going to show you guys this in just a moment. I'm going to get back to this in just a moment. We're also talking about Nehemiah 10:28 through 31. This is also obligations of the 7th year rest for the land. The rest of the people, the priests, the Levites, the gatekeepers, the singers, the temple servants, and all who are separated themselves from the peoples of the land to the law of Elohim, their wives, their sons, their daughters, and all who have knowledge and understanding, join with their brothers, their nobles, and enter into a curse and an oath to walk in Elohim's law that was given by Moses, the servant of Elohim, to observe and do all the commandments of Yahweh your Elohim and his rules and statutes. What's the curse? The curse is if you don't follow, right? And this is Nehemiah. So he's talking to the people coming back to Jerusalem. And he's telling everybody we need to get back to the laws. We need to follow the commandments again. Separate yourselves from everything that's not of Elohim. Come back to the statutes. And then it says, we will not give our daughters to the people of the land or take their daughters or sons, daughters for our sons. And if the peoples of the land bring in goods or any grain on the Sabbath day to sell, we will not buy from them on the Sabbath or on a holy day. And we will forego the crops of the 7th year and the exaction of every debt. So here's Nehemiah putting all those laws back into place, right? So doesn't this sound quite a bit like what we were reading here in the text of the scroll? It's very similar. This very section of Nehemiah sounds exactly like the Damascus document and the other Zadokite scrolls of how we need to address this and keep the laws. And they're using the same terminology of walking in the oath, right? What is the oath of Elohim? We see that throughout the scrolls. The Damascus document talked about coming back to the oath for Elohim, saying that you're going to follow in this what Moses taught us, right? All right, I said I'm going to kind of cover this about the 7-year and the Jubilee year, and this is a screenshot over here on the right per the Jubilee calendar. So if you haven't looked at I think it was my very first presentation, pretty boring one, but a lot of good information in there for sure. This is a screenshot of my Excel document. What I did was I plotted the years that Jubilees gave me into a chart. And when I did that, you can create a formula and just adds a year for every section, and that's what I did. And when I put it out towards the future, this is the year that it tells me that we are in. So according to just plotting it out, we are in the 122nd Jubilee, and we are in this year right here. It's highlighted in blue because it's a Gamul year. This is the 3rd week of the 122nd Jubilee, and we are in the 1, 2, 3, 4th year of the 122nd Jubilee, 3rd week, 4th year. This is Gamul year. And when you count, there's 7 years in each week. That means our next Jubilee year, 7th year, all of these are the 7th year. So the next Jubilee year would be 2028. So this is the year that my family is going to let our field rest. All right, every 7th year. So it'll be 2028, 2035, 2042, 49, and 56. Now when you get to 2056, this is the 49th year of the Jubilee. So you would let your land rest in 2056. But what follows right after that is the 50th year. So this year, 2057, will be a Jubilee rest year for your land. So you'll have 2 years in a row, 2056 and 2057, where you cannot plant or reap your harvest. So the Father says, in the 6th year, so 2055, I will give you enough to sustain your family for this year, 2056, 2057, and you still have to wait till this is over to plant. So a 3rd year. So he'll give you enough to sustain you so that when you plant by the 3rd year, 1, 2, 3, you'll be able to be okay. So again, we aren't necessarily self-sufficient, so we don't plant the harvest. And I have a lot of great volunteer plants that come up every year, those perennial plants, right? Depends on your location. Some things might come up for you that won't come up for me because we have really hard winters where I live. But I know, for example, I have about 50 tomato plants that are volunteers this year. That's a blessing, right? That is a blessing. I didn't have to plant them. And but I still will probably, I don't have enough tomato plants that's going to get me through the whole year unless I preserve them. So, we make a lot of salsa here, pasta sauce, so we're going to preserve it. It's not going to be enough for our family because we don't have enough crops to sustain us. But I do want to follow the Father's commandments. And so in 2028, we will not plant or harvest our field. So let me know if you are also going to do that. I hope that you are. And if you've done that already and you've been keeping that for a few years, let me know how your experiences are going. All right, so the land Sabbath rules. I'm going to repeat what it said. It said, no one will sow his field, nor prune his vine. No one will harvest what grows of its own accord, nor gather anything. Keep all these words of the covenant to observe them, and in this year you shall grant a release. So listen to his words. It's not just not planting something, it's not gathering it in. I mean, you can go out, my family goes out and on the Sabbath day and plucks some strawberries. We did that the other day, and it's okay to do that, but not gathering it in. And it definitely has its benefits for your land as well. And if you're not a gardener, this doesn't apply to you, right? We know that there are laws that don't necessarily apply to everyone. And if you don't have a garden, obviously this is not going to apply to you. But this is why I brought up this scroll, was because I thought it had some important information in here. So that is what I have for you today for the words of Moses. Thank you for joining me, and until next time, I hope that you are going to continue to be a Berean with me and join the fight for truth.